I never thought that one piece of carry-on luggage would change my life forever. But that's exactly what happened. It awoke this deeply hidden dream of mine, reignited my passion and zest for performing, and it made me more creative in my career. I felt that this experience wasn't just for me, though. I mean, picture this: succeeding financially in a daytime career while experiencing the lifelong dream of pursuing your art form. And not just juggling the two like we do, but experiencing success in both and the symbiotic benefits from both. For many of us, the dream started to fade away when we started what many of my friends call adulting. We start a new career and set the dreams aside, or many of us start a family, and well, that's when the dreams oftentimes died. I'm here to tell you how one simple act, one simple habit changed everything for me. This isn't a talk about a destination or a goal, though. It's about a journey. I started playing saxophone when I was 10 years old. And all throughout high school and college, I heard that phrase, "Don't ever quit your day job." And all the performers know what I'm talking about. I heard this constantly, and I did, actually, I did when I was an adult. No, I mean, I actually did quit my day job twice. And when I did, it was so brutal, it was tough, it was really hard. And as I grew older and became an adult, I realized I needed a daytime career to support myself. Anybody heard of the term starving artist? Yeah, that was me too. Well, lo and behold, I not only needed a career for stability, but I needed to be financially successful because I started a family. As I got older, I realized that financial success was the big part of the equation. But jazz got forgotten, and I needed jazz. In essence, I needed financial stability for my personal goals, and I needed to perform jazz in front of audiences that care. But how would I do this? How do any of us do this? We all have these divine gifts that we want to share. How do we share them? Well, I started to ask these questions, and they're important. These three questions. How can we be financially successful while still performing? That's a valid question. Can our performances be that good while we're still employed in our daytime careers? And finally, how will we have the time to do all of this, right? As an adult, we never have enough time, especially if you have kids. They talk about that work-life balance, right? That dreaded phrase. Well, as I started to dig deeper, I found that there are two things. First of all, data supports doing both your career and your passion at the same time. And three, I realized that not only that, but the linchpin to everything is the word compromise. None of us want to compromise. We don't want to compromise our careers, and we certainly do not want to compromise our art form. When I was a starving artist, I used to complain, and I hated playing certain shows because I'd have to perform music that I didn't care for. That was compromise. That was a big compromise. Well, if you can go back to the slide, in 2013, the National Endowment of the Arts conducted a study, and they found out through the Bureau of Labor Statistics that over 84,000 musicians held daytime careers. That is simply staggering. It's crazy. So you can do your career and passion at the same time, right? And not only that, I realized that it's steadily growing exponentially. And so as I started to look at myself, my 20 years of performing and playing saxophone, over 20 years in local venues, and my 20 years of being a career-driven adult and needing success as a business consultant and a territory sales manager, it came to me that other people are dealing with this too. And that's when I discovered something that would change everything for me. I started bringing my saxophone on business trips. It was in September 10th of 2017 when I did this. my work was taking me to New York, and I figured, hey, I'll take my saxophone. What do I have to lose, right? So I was in the airport in Atlanta that September morning, and I made eye contact in the gateway with a gentleman, well-dressed gentleman, named Henry Connerway III, I found out later. And we made eye contact, and he was carrying a cymbal bag over his shoulder, and he was walking with this beautiful lady wearing an African-style garb. And they smiled back, and I think they saw me carrying my saxophone over my shoulder. So he walked over and said, hey, brother, where were you gigging last night in the ATL? I said, actually, I wasn't, sir. I was traveling up to New York for work, and I thought I'd bring my sax to sit in at Smalls Jazz Club down in the Village. He said, that's fantastic. What are you doing tonight? And I said, well, why is that? What's going on? What's happening? He said, well, my friend Will is playing piano with his group, and they're playing at a place called Smoke on the Upper West Side, and I think you should come. We could hang out after my gig. It would be totally cool. What do you say? So I said, sure, let's exchange info. So we exchanged info, and as I'm boarding the plane, I realized that Will is my friend Will Dellisfort that went to Florida A&M, playing at Smoke Jazz Club in New York City. And so I was definitely going, and I got really excited when I found out that Henry Connerway III, or HC3, as his friends know him, was traveling with a great jazz artist, a vocalist, that goes by the name of Jasmia Horn, who was later nominated for a Grammy that year for Best Jazz Singer album. So, in essence, I got to New York, I started packing my stuff, unpacking my luggage, grabbed some pizza, did some work emails, and I headed up to the Upper West Side. Caught a cab, 10:30. I was there early, walked in, it was crowded. Smoke's a quaint jazz club, so I sat up at the bar. And I noticed some of the most beautiful music that I've ever heard. Some poppin' bebop. I'm talking about the Steve Wilson Quartet, with Steve on saxophone, and Nicholas Payton was sitting in on trumpet, one of my personal heroes in the music world. Well, after their last set that I caught, I got to meet Steve, Nick, and the band, and I found out Nick was sticking around to play with Will. And so I stuck around. And what I proceeded to hear was some of the most amazing jazz I've ever heard in my life. Soulful, beautiful music. And after two sets, two of the most amazing sets I've heard, Will Dellisfort walks up to the microphone from the piano and he says, I noticed a good friend of mine from Florida is here tonight, Mr. Chief Cherry. Chief, you reminded me of my family in Miami dealing with Hurricane Irma. Would you be so kind to come up and join us on stage? So I went up there and I said, Will, I don't have my saxophone, man. It's at the hotel. I actually came up here just to hear you. I don't want to be presumptuous. Well, Will, HC3 came up behind me, the drummer friend I met, and said, Chief, we bring our instrument everywhere in New York City, especially if you know the band leader. Wow. I was like, okay. So I walked back to the bar, a little disappointed. Quickly, Will comes up, because he's not on the piano. There's a piano sitting in. He says, hey, Chief, don't you sing as well? I said, I sure do. Well, for the next song, I got to go up and perform My Funny Valentine with Kaori Ueno on the piano, with Barry Stevenson on the upright bass. He had just performed on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert with the Stay Human Band. And of course, my new friend I just met in the airport, Henry Connerway, HC3. I was on cloud 9. It was truly unbelievable. So I went outside afterwards, and I was just tickled to death. I couldn't believe what was happening. And I thought, you know, it'd be poetic to light up a cigar, since I just sang at Smoke Jazz Club. Makes sense, right? So some of the musicians came out and they joined me, and we kind of congregated. And Nicholas Payton came by, and he said, I really enjoyed your singing, man. That just changed something inside of me. That just affected me in a deep way. One of my heroes just affirmed my gift. And then the woman who took my cell phone next to me at the bar said, I'd like to book you sometime. And I said, whoa, what's that mean exactly? And then Nick's like nodding and smiling behind her. And I said, "Where's that?" And she said, "Well, I've booked some shows at Birdland Jazz Club. And I also booked the, Bucky Pizzarelli trio at a small Italian restaurant." I said, "Birdland? Bucky, are you serious?" I was freaking out. I quickly gathered myself, done. We exchanged info and for my future trips to New York, but I was shaking. My second night in New York City, I performed at Smalls Jazz Club. It was unbelievable that night. I went to Smalls, and I can't even describe my emotions that evening. That place was on fire and electric. I got to play the saxophone at Smalls, and a friend of mine came and filmed it, and it was just out of sight. Changed my life. So, after I left Smalls, I realized something. I realized that I'd only gone to New York for 4 days, and in those 4 days, I had sang at Smoke Jazz Club, I'd played my sax at Smalls. I got affirmed by one of my jazz heroes, someone who their opinion means something to me. I got invited to sing at Birdland Jazz Club and play with the Bucky Pizzarelli trio. And all this time, I wasn't tired. I was waking up really early, going to work, having board meetings. I had this energy, this enthusiasm that just would not quit. It was amazing. I was having success. I just orchestrated a 4-party meeting for a deal for a hotel development in New York City. And no signs of fatigue. And I realized this could mean something for a lot of people. I was experiencing success at work. I started to practice when I got home relentlessly, because you want to be good when you're on stage in New York, right? Kinda. So I'm working on that. It's a constant battle, as you know, as artists. And then, on top of that, I got my groove back. I realized that it's, life is short. I've got goals to hit. I want to be the best artist I can be. I got my mojo back. It all came back to me, finally, like a young musician again. Can you imagine if people in this world experienced total success, total holistic success, not just financial success? What that would mean? People are less fulfilled than ever before, as evidenced by society's epidemics. The opioid crisis, antidepressant sales are at an all-time high. And all this while we're experiencing what the experts call the greatest financial boom or prosperity in our nation's history. Maybe it's not all about the money. Maybe, what about those childhood dreams? Maybe, just maybe, they are there to fuel us, to bring inspiration to the world. Society needs our creative inspiration. Society needs your creativity. Let's start crafting truly balanced lives. Charlie Parker, the great saxophonist, once said, and I quote, "If you don't live it, it won't come out of your horn." So let's start living life and crafting our lives as though if our workplace doesn't give us opportunities to travel, let's plan for those and make those opportunities happen for the sake of our artwork. Whether you're a musician, a painter, a photographer, a poet, a designer, a dancer. My paintbrush is a saxophone. Don't forget your CarryOn. I know I never will. And don't ever quit your day job. Live both your career and your passion at the same time. I'm Shannon Cherry. Thank you very much.